they're not going to really be able to play very well. Right, Chris?
Yeah, well, the other thing I mean, there's a certain amount, obviously, like in Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I mean, there's dramatic license, right? So, really, the future of space combat and what would happen would be, it would all be drones. You wouldn't have humans be doing it because we can't tolerate the forces you would have in the bodies, and it's a whole bunch of other reasons. So we're sort of going for a sort of, it's almost a science fantasy, right? So Star Wars could be deemed as a science fantasy. Battlestar Galactica could be deemed as a science fantasy. So it's sort of taking some things that we know from, history, our past, and sort of putting it into the future. And so, yeah, you kind of think that you want to have sounds. And but even I would say, Gravity, which is a pretty accurate film in terms of space. I mean, there is sound in that. I mean, when you're in your suit, there's definitely sound because there's oxygen around. It propagates. When you're in a space station, there's sound. So they actually did a pretty nice job of that. And there has definitely been talk that potentially you would, maybe in the future, just like, if you have a digital SLR now, well, they don't have an actual shutter, but guess what? When you press the button, it makes the shutter sound, because that's what people are used to, and it's actual audio feedback for why they're taking a picture. And the same, people are like, electric cars are now like having a muffler sound on some of them, so you can actually hear them, because otherwise you couldn't hear them. So who's to say in the future that you wouldn't necessarily simulate a level of sound for a pilot in a cockpit so he could have spatial awareness, which is to sort of what Martin's talking about. So that's definitely there, although, who knows, for the purists, for the fun of it, we may have a, turn the sound off check mark that could, sound when you're actually out in the exterior, could be silent or whatever. We haven't, we may provide that as an option just for the people that really want to be pure about it. But as I've said, there would be, you could definitely see some ways in the future where people would, even essentially fake the sound for spatial awareness reasons. But back to Ben.
All right. Anti-X would like to know from Pedro, how do you get started writing a piece of music? Do you just pick a note and go from there, or what's your process?
I really have no clue. I'm being as honest as possible. I really have absolutely no clue. I'm actually a very visual composer, but when I see an image that inspires me, I just get fired with ideas. Like, I have to eliminate them and just pick one I want the best at the time without seeing anything. It's so basically Star Citizen looks so good. So when I see any image, I just get like a bunch of ideas, like very fast. That's at least. Of course, then there is the time to produce it and orchestrate. That's a technique part. It's not all inspiration. There is a lot of technique, a lot of study you need to have to make it actually sound like a music. But I think he's mentioning like the start, like the ignition of a new piece, and that part is just like I have to eliminate by basically the ideas. That's it. Hope it answered.
All right, I've got a question here from Michael Nightingale, who has not missed a live stream yet. He's helping us out, wrangling folks in Austin. This is for Martin. Are there going to be musical pieces that have non-standard timings, like 3/3 or 5/4?
We'll work that one out with Pedro over the course. We may try that for some of the alien races. It doesn't jump out as something we've got. Certainly not something we've got in the plan right now. But it's something that we could try because it's very alien. It's unexpected. It gives that unsettling feel that, we as humans, we're the human players of Star Citizen. There are no Xi'an players of Star Citizen who would think that the Xi'an stuff is all, totally normal. We see those guys as aliens, and so we might want to use some unnatural sounding music tempos, right? Pedro, what do you think?
Yeah, I basically agree with you. Yes, I agree with your opinion on that. Nothing further to add.
Pedro and I are on the same page when it comes to that.
Have a lot of people asking about other types of music, rock, jazz. Are we going to see anything like that in Star Citizen?
In fact, if I might extend to the question, a lot of people have asked me about what music's going on in the bars and on the planets, in these places you walk in. It's not score, it's not like a storyline, it's like what kind of ambient music plays in these places. Over to you, Pedro.
Yeah, well, I really do have tons of ideas in that side, which I think we will all discuss as a team. But I believe I'm not. This is my. I like those games that when you go to a bar, all the music you hear is just like a futuristic techno. That's okay. But I believe that in the future you will also want to hear some jazz, some classic tunes, some 80s, actual current 80s tunes. I don't know.
1980s, that is, not 2080s, right?
Yes, 1980s. So like old school bars, and of course I think there should be like modern of the time in Star Citizen, like modern music of the period we are living in there. I think there should. I believe that there will be a bit of everything, but of course this is something that we are still discussing as a team, and to see what's the best option on that aspect.
Right.
Wondering how many scores the game will have.
I'm just making the
To
same
you,
face
Martin.
Pedro's making. I'm gonna make a rough guess. Hey, Chris, do we have we said how many planets are in the game? Is it 700, something like that?
Currently, we have about 55 star systems and about 400 different environments that you can land on. And it may be more. I mean, now that we've gotten more, we're not really finite. We're going to constantly be adding stuff. So we're still getting the pipeline up for building the environments and everything. But that quite potentially could be bigger because we're looking at some hybrid sort of built and procedural stuff, so allow us to sort of flesh out a larger degree of areas. But you certainly you will certainly be in that range. I don't think you need 450 themes. But you're certainly going to have different kinds of places: big cities, small cities, outposts, mining colonies, Jean, Banu, human, Vandal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start out by categorizing them into large groups.
I think it's just going to. It's this whole. The whole Star Citizen is just going to be an ongoing content job. I tell people that start on it, it's like, no, you're not. This isn't like you're on a game and it's for just 2 years and you're shipping this thing. It's like, basically, if you want to make Star Citizen your career, you can do. You could be happily composing in 10 years time new music for Star Citizen. It's not particularly finite. It's sort of an ongoing process, which is both kind of exciting and scary at the same time.
Right. So to answer the original question, we're going to start off by categorizing the entire Star Citizen universe into big areas, like all desert planets and all, certain alien planets and that kind of thing, and each one will get their own theme, or entry music and landing music and the other kinds of events that we're going to use. And then as we want to dress up, it's like set dressing with music. We're going to dress up the set with specific pieces of music on specific planets. If they have a specific piece of content on there, like a pirate boss lives on that planet, and whenever you go there, you see that pirate boss. So we may use a particular piece of music on that planet. Then you've got the interactive parts of the music for battles and the Squadron 42 scores, which are also divided into 2 bits. So the interactive things and all the passive moments, like when you're watching scenes in the story. I assume there's going to be, storyline scenes that you go through that'll have music in the background. So we're going to score all of that. We may start with generic pieces of score, kind of like if you ever watch soap operas, they start off with a library of about 20 pieces of music and they just pick one to play in the background. We may start with that kind of technique for our Squadron 42 stories, but then add specific pieces of music for the specific scenes as we go on. Hope I didn't say specific too many times in that answer.
Give us more specifics.
Can you be more specific?
People are asking about a radio system like GTA. Is that something we can see in Star Citizen?
I get that question a lot, and I constantly bounce it over to the design people because really it's a design question. Honestly, since Chris is in the room, he might want to wax lyrical on that. What do you think, Chris?
Well, we're definitely looking and considering like a jukebox system whereby, like, for instance, you're in your hangar or maybe even your ship. It can play music you have on your computer, like in your iTunes library or whatever, just as a feature. In terms of radio and broadcasts, we're definitely planning on having like sort of news broadcasts and probably radio broadcasts that would be sort of in fiction though, right? So I'm not sure we're going to go to the GTA 5 thing where they've actually licensed a bunch of contemporary music and it's playing over the radios. Super cool, but it sort of feels like it would be a bit anachronistic for what we're doing in Star Citizen. But definitely, we have things like one-shot shipping news and all that sort of stuff. So the long-term plan for Star Citizen is to take a lot of the stuff, say, that Dave Haddock has been writing, and you see sort of in written post, and move them to audio or even full video production, where it's all about immersing you in the world. It's all about my long-term goal would be you would be flying around, or you'd be walking into a bar, and like maybe you'd be hearing a podcast, or you'd be watching a news item, and that show would literally be discussing events that were happening in the universe, right? So you would have, we would be recording, our content team here would be like looking at what was happening in the universe, and the one-shot shipping news, whoever the actor playing that would write a script for him that would be based on something that we saw happening in the universe the day before or 2 days before, and he'd be like, okay, it looks like in the Vegas sector there's increased pirate activity and that kind of stuff. It'd just be kind of cool. So we'll definitely have a level of that, and probably allow you to sort of play your own playlist or whatever, but probably won't have necessarily like popular bands playing music from today over our radio, because like I said, it doesn't really fit the sci-fi setting. But that's not to say we wouldn't occasionally sort of come up with some sci-fi, whatever, like think of it like dubstep or Daft Punk or something. We come up with whatever our futuristic like music would be, and we would occasionally have that playing over the radio or something, because that could be kind of cool and immersive.
Chris, hey, so a lot of people have asked me about this. We don't have to make a decision on it right now, but players want to create their own radio stations with whatever programming they produce, and it could be a 24-hour stream, and we could potentially integrate that into our game and play the basically amateur streams, but they're in fiction radio broadcasts. Does that seem something you'd want to do?
Yeah, no, I think that'd be really cool. I mean, I think that would probably be sort of quite easily supported with the system that I'm talking about anyway, because you're basically just plugging into sort of audio streams. But yeah, that would definitely be cool. I mean, that's part of the idea. Part of the idea would be that, yes, we're guiding the world and we're sort of designing on a big scale, but a lot of the content and the drama, or like what's happening, is coming from the players. So, that's great. I mean, like the stuff that the community's done so far is amazing, just the level of videos and care and all the stuff they put into it. And I definitely think that would be, people could have, whatever, they, maybe you buy a license to have your own like radio broadcast station, and, instead of selling owning a store to sell stuff, that's what you do. I don't know. I mean, it could be pretty cool.
Radio DJ.
A radio DJ. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm constantly amazed that in something like Star Citizen, people are really focused on all this huge variety of roles, right? I tend to be a little sort of narrow-minded wing commander privateer. I just want to be, Luke Skywalker. I want to be Han Solo. But there's plenty of people that want to, they just want to they want to be the guy that goes out to fix people when they break down in space, or they would want to be a VJ, or whatever it would be. It's just it's amazing how people want to do so many different things, and so it's almost like just going to a different world and reality, and so I think the more we do to support that, especially when it's technically easy, is a good thing for the game.
Hey, let's get it back to a music question, since Pedro's sitting there falling asleep.
Yeah, I'm fine here. I'm fine. Don't worry.
Pedro, we've got a user who'd like to know if you use any granular synthesis in composing.
What do you mean by synthesis? Like a synthesizer itself, or?
I think electronics to simulate.
Yeah. I do use many synths. I'm a fan of many. I've worked with Rob Pappen a lot, like designing his, helping him in his synths. I think if the people are asking that, so they probably know Predator, Blue, and his those are synths I really like. I really do like Zebra from UHE, the Zebra, and Diva a little bit as well, but I like Zebra a lot. Massive from Native Instruments is great. And of course, there's also the Moogs, which I really Moog Little Fatty. It's a synthesizer. I really love the sound of it. We still, since right now we're focusing on the score of Squadron 42 and what we have in mind, at least for now, it's more like the classic sci-fi sound in that. So we want it to be like a cinematic experience. We don't want it to be like too experimental. We want people to play the Squadron 42 storyline and feel like, oh, this reminds me of things from that we lived before in the past 10 years or 20 years. So Squadron 42 has a more classy sci-fi scoring than more accessible, more heartwarming music to me. I'm not saying that synthesizers are not heartwarming, which are to me, but maybe they're not for the majority of people. I think almost everyone loves hearing a beautiful string section playing a theme with a lot of expression, and it will fit perfectly in a sci-fi score, in my opinion. Then there will be, of course, as we have spoke before, with all the different landscapes and planets and things like that, we will progressively integrate synthesizers. The main theme already has some synthesizers in there, and in the more more strange planets, if I may say so, we might go more experimental in terms of music. It's like as Chris said, it's like an ongoing experience during time, and we will build a game with all of us, literally with all of us, all the team and every player, and so. Let's see what the future is holding for us.
I'm also wondering if there will be non-orchestral ambient music in space.
Yes,
non-orchestral.
Yeah.
If we right now we are focusing on the orchestral score, but I always say something about music, which is for me there are only two kinds of music, which is good and bad music. I try to make the good music, but now what defines good music is just good writing. It doesn't have to be with orchestra. Orchestra I love orchestra personally, but it doesn't have to be always orchestra. There might be some corners of the galaxy where the orchestra will not fit at all, but as I said, it's with time, I think we will discover in which ways we should use orchestra or not. I believe. I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, there was even I remember there was a piece that we haven't shared yet, but there was some exploration of kind of like almost a mood in a nebula that you did a while ago, Pedro, and that was pretty much all. It was all synth, and it was sort of felt appropriately synth, right? Which is the sort of stuff you couldn't necessarily do on with orchestral. So I would say that. Well, I was just saying that. I mean, I would just say that we use a combination of even when the orchestral stuff, you still have some synth elements because there's a sound with a certain synth sound that you don't get with an orchestral instrument. So we combine those, and some places it may be mostly orchestral, and some places it may be more synth, and we may have some places where it just could be sort of a soundscape versus necessarily something that's melodic. So I guess the answer would be yes.
Great.
This might be our final question, I think, coming up. All right.
Wondering if there will be a choir used
Yes, of course. There will be a choir. The main theme already has a choir.
There was
Your requiem that you did was pretty beautiful with the choir.
I am personally, I believe that there is no best instrument as the human voice. It's the best instrument that exists. Also, it's more. I think it's the hardest one to actually score well without always being the traditional staccato, like like you know. There are many ways to use the voice. Like there are so many ways to use the voice. If you hear many modern classical composers like Luciano Berio and or even far far in back in history composers like Ockeghem or Josquin des Prés, and you'll hear just so many ways to use the choir. And I hope that the main team already has a choir, but I hope that we will explore the human voice, and perhaps sometimes disguising in a way that no one will ever tell it's the human voice. And I think I like to do that, at least. I like to do it.
We should warn Pedro that before he goes to bed, our fans crashed his site. Our fans crashed his site.
Apparently, in the tradition of Star Citizen, our fans have now crashed your site because they've all going there to check it out.
Oh my God. Have I said?
To be proud, you should be proud.
Cool. So
that's why I was not able to upload anything. I was trying to upload and I couldn't. Like, oh my God, what? Never mind. Sorry. Well, yeah, crash. Don't worry. That means I must change my server. I thought I had a dedicated server. Guess I don't have it after all.
Star Citizen, you need more than one. You need a whole load balancing server to distribute to sub servers and everything. It's yeah.
Well, we can visit YouTube. YouTube.
Ben, you got
one more. I think we're coming close to the next section, so let's take one more.
What sort of instruments will be used in the music? But what instruments have been used in the music you recorded so far? Is it primarily brass or strings or what?
Well, I am personally a fan of woodwinds and strings, but of course, the horns and the brass family of an orchestra, and by tradition, came from the hunters. So it's impossible to make a track that you want to have some heroic or some military feeling, that you completely remove the brass. You can if you use some synthesizers instead of brass and things like that, but there is a necessity for that. But what I really will like to use in my music is to always feature the colors of the woodwinds. Many times and we neglect that family of the orchestra. So I hope people enjoy that color, and it makes a difference for them.
All right, are we off?
All right. Well, thank you very much for answering some musical questions.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone.
They say goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for crashing my website.
All right. Next up, we're going to bring in some of the team here in Austin to talk about what we're doing out here.
So give them a ring right now. You want to roll and gather them up?
Yep, they are ready to come in. We'll have them in just a moment. So anybody want to buy an Idris?
Do I need to log again?
It's Brendan. Hi.
Right, am I on? Ask people.
Yep. Forrest, yeah. Forrest, Brian,
Brian's not here. Brian's.
Yeah,
No, Brian's here.
all right, well, Forrest will do. Oh, all right. Maybe Aaron.
Maybe Aaron.
All right, we've got Forrest and Brendan here to talk about some of the work we are doing in Austin. What kind of work are you doing right now in Austin?
Well, we're concentrating on PBR rendering to give our whole engine a graphical facelift. We're concentrating on our environments and how we're going to build out so many environments in a reasonable amount of time. So we're concentrating on this modular tier system.
Mhm.
And then, yeah.
So tell me more about PBR. This is the first everybody's hearing about that. What is it?
Do you want to give the programmer lecture on PBR?
Sure. PBR is kind of we refactor the way we approach art so that we're aiming to make objects react naturally to light. So we can express surface materials better. Our metals should look a lot better. Our plastics, our leathers, everything should look a whole lot closer to the way they do in reality and react to varying light conditions pretty well. Let's see,
So on the game art side, one of the big changes is the difference between how we do our specular maps. Before you kind of just kind of fake your diffuse texture into looking like a specular map, and there's really no realistic approach to how you do your specular maps. And now we're able to fake a real index of refraction to the specular map, which allows our metals to react react to the light as it should in the real world. It allows our plastics to do the same. It allows our flat materials, just basic diffused materials like concretes, or.
we're getting asked what does it stand for. So PBR stands for physically based rendering. We're aiming to match the real world reactions of materials as we apply our levels. Just things should look much closer to the way they do in the real world.
And it looks spectacular. We're gonna show you a little bit of that in the near future. Just the improvement it's gonna make just in the hacker modules is just incredible.
Yeah, I think we, hey guys, Chris, I think we have a video that will show when it's finished downloading onto the broadcast machine here, which is in progress. It's about 10 minutes. It's what Nathan sent that I think has some element of the PBR in it as well as kind of some cool stuff on the Avenger. The Avenger is much more developed than what's in the Hanger right now.
Right, yeah, the Avenger has actually been completely ported over to the PBR, so that'll be a great look at the improvement of our rendering.
Another advantage it has is, I don't know if I'm on camera. Maybe you could do the chair thing. You grab that chair and I'll take this chair for us.
Yep.
I'll scoot the chair this way. Is the assets, it allows us to reuse assets in different lighting situations better, so it kind of increases art efficiency also.
Well, it increases the art direction, as in things will be much more consistent across the board, and so you'll have a consistent art direction, and everything will look much more fluid and more like just one environment, looks as it should, instead of like sporadically have different art styles all over the place.
So talk about this modular work you're doing. What's the story there?
We're basing our environment on what we're calling a modular tier system. And what that means is we break it up into multiple tiers. So it can be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. The smaller it is, the more individual it is, the bigger it is, the more grouped amount of assets there are. So maybe you have a giant building that's broken up into modular prefabs, and you want to take all those modular prefabs, you could assemble them in the engine, and then you can just prefab all those prefabs together, and now all of a sudden you have a giant building that you can just build from the scene. It allows you to go inside of it and then break it down in different ways and looks and forms, so you can build out different environments,